All right, everybody, what's up? What's up? We are back with another edition here of the Patterson Report. As always, I'm Brandon. He's Ryan. And if you notice a little bit more of a pep in our step this week, it is because I think we finally got a glimpse at what this Eagles team can be, at what we were promised from the get-go. Now, it took a minute to get here, but that second half against Cincinnati, look, and I get that they're missing T. Higgins. I mean, we're missing half the offensive line, so cry me a river with that. But, I mean, this Eagle offense looked complete. You got Devontae Smith involved. You got some roots over the middle. Grant Calcaterra took a big step. A.J. Brown, of course, did his thing. Saquon did his. I mean, you got guys on the O-line, which I'll save for you because a lot of them were Brian Prosick draft prospects. Guys that you mentioned that I barely knew about coming into the season. You mentioned could be guys, but I mean it felt like everything hit at once.
Yeah, it felt really good. I mean, the Bengals, it's weird. They're not the best. I mean, just outside of T. Higgins, not even counting him, the team's been weaker this year. We saw they struggled with the Giants on Sunday Night Football. They don't feel like the same football team they have in years past. But still, you got to celebrate the W's. Jalen Hurts scored 3 times. And yes, I want Saquon to get involved in the scoring again, but when you get down to the one,
you know what time it is.
We were like maybe Saquon, will get the carries on the one, maybe it was just because it was DeAndre Swift. Now they have Saquon to take the load off of Jalen Hurts. No, push away. I mean, everything came together. It's pretty great when everything clicks. I want to shout out the corners, the rookie corners. They impressed against Ja'Marr Chase. That 4th down stop by Cooper DeJean at a clutch point in the game. Man.
On Ja'Marr Chase. Not on, whoever the hell else is out.
Well, he wasn't on him. He went all the way across the field to stop him.
Yeah.
On that clutch 4th down, Quinyon Mitchell. I don't have the exact stat sitting in front of me, so that's my fault. But I think it was 2 catches for 15 yards when he was on Ja'Marr Chase. I might be mistaken. It's in that ballpark, okay? But anyway, that's impressive for the rookie corner. He did everything I wanted him to do. And you know who we haven't got to mention because we haven't been doing shows as frequently? Nolan Smith.
Nolan
Man's
Smith
been a beast. Since week 5, I believe he's 3rd in pass rush win rate. Incredible stuff. I mean, sometimes you got to give these dudes time. Like Nolan Smith, everyone was calling him a bust, and
same with Nakobe.
Mm-hmm.
Nakobe was put on notice. He was this last year. We tried, he's just not going to work out. This week, according to PFF, the 2 top-rated linebackers in the NFL that played on Sunday night were Bond and Dean.
Incredible.
2 guys who came out of absolute left field. I mean, Bond could barely crack the New Orleans rotation, and everybody in Philly was ready to give up on Nakobe Dean. And these 2 guys are balling right now, along with Nolan Smith.
Look, I know I like to mention other teams in this, but you see the Colts giving up on Anthony Richardson. Yes, I know it's a different position. You see the Colts giving up on Bryce Young. The Eagles aren't giving up on their young.
Dean didn't ask for a break.
Yeah, I know, right? That's that. I have too much Anthony Richardson on my dynasty team, so I got to consult myself later. But anyway, it's one of those things where you got to give young players opportunities. You got to give them reps. Nakobe Dean's gotten these reps, and he's gotten better and better. Nolan Smith, same thing, better and better. Cooper DeJean, of course, he didn't play as much early in the season, but that's because he missed a whole training camp. That's a different story than getting benched halfway through the season.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where the Eagles are giving their young players the reps, and they're rewarding them for it. It's fantastic to see. I mean, the offensive line as well, which I'm sure we'll dive into. But oh my goodness, you got to give. We've been really hard on Nick Sirianni here, me especially. I mean, I got to give it to him. He's playing these young guys. Of course, the first quarter points thing. I'll give him a pass this week. The Bengals had a 15-minute drive in the first quarter.
Yeah, what do you do there?
That's. It doesn't excuse the other results that they've produced in the first quarter. But, man, it feels like Kellen Moore is really running this offense on Sunday. I don't know what your take is on that, but it felt really Kellen Moore-like.
Well, that's why I slipped in that part on the intro about them using the middle of the field, because when I saw that, And when I saw the creativity to get Devontae Smith more involved, and I saw a couple times when they absolutely needed a third down. Now, look, I love A.J. Brown. I think he's one of the most, if not the most dominant receiver in football, stats-wise. I mean, Jefferson is kind of running away with that. I get it. But on third down, there's something like Devontae Smith is my safety blanket. Like, I know on third down, and I'm watching at home, I want the ball going to Devontae Smith. He's not the biggest. He just seems to have a knack for the line on third down. And when I started seeing him a couple times on Sunday, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, they would go to that tried and true slant to Devontae Smith over the middle to get, if they needed 6, he got you 7. But he always got you there. And when I started seeing that, I was like, all right, somebody else is at the controls, because Nick would have thrown a screen and hoped, or he would have taken the unnecessary deep shot. So that's when I could kind of tell that, all right, Kellen Moore's at the controls, and we're going to be all right.
Yeah, that's really how it felt. And like, if this is how the Eagles' offense is going forward, I believe there's only 2 teams with a top 10 offense and top 10 defense, and I believe it's the Eagles and the Texans. Sky's the limit.
Yeah,
honestly.
And we talked. I mean, you touched on it a little bit. I'm going to echo that, and then we'll get into some of the other young guys who have made a difference. I just don't think we can overstate how good Quinyon Mitchell has been as a rookie.
Dude,
we are talking Sauce Gardner levels of dominance as a rookie.
Can we ask the question, how did this dude fall? What happened?
Toledo. Everybody has to be the smartest guy in the room, and they look too far into Toledo, too far into, look at the guys he was covering. Look, I get that to a degree. I mean, corner from Alabama is going to have to face tougher competition. But when you look at the tape, the fundamentals were there from the get-go. The ball skills were there right away. All that stuff was going to translate. I mean, the guy across from you doesn't determine your fundamentals, your process. And when you watched him on tape, he was glued to everybody he faced. And since coming into the pros, it's almost felt like he's kind of become your CB1. Now, look, obviously teams are trying to get that matchup. They're still trying to get Jamar Chase. Who the hell else was? Neighbors. They're trying to get their best guy on the rookie because they still see him as a rookie. So Slay's not seeing as much of those top flight receivers. But he's taken the hardest matchup every game and consistently won over and over and over. Mike Evans is another one. He's seeing the top guys, and they're not getting free.
Yeah, it's honestly ridiculous. I'm trying to look up the exact stats here because, man, he's just been a stud. It's been honestly ridiculous how good he's been for being a rookie. And I'm pulling up the exact stats here. I can't find it.
And Slay's been good, too. He gets a lot of shit, and he deserves a decent amount of it. But for how long we had to wait for a good corner duo, that 1 year with Bradbury and Slay was nice. But this one's as good. I mean, I don't know if you're an opposing team, there's not a matchup you're hunting. Cooper DeJean can hang. Slay's a proven pro, all pro ball with a whole 9 yards. Quinyon Mitchell's an ascending star. We don't have to travel, guys. I mean, no matter where you line your receiver up, we feel pretty good about that matchup.
Mm-hmm. It was 1 catch allowed, 2 targets, 13 yards.
See, that's crazy.
Honestly ridiculous. I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes the draft, you just go BPA, and this one was BPA and filled a need. So it was a double whammy. And sometimes you just have to do that. Cooper DeJean.
DeJean was pure BPA, and I love it.
I love it.
Pure BPA. That's just because they could.
There were rumors he was going to go top 25, and I bought it. I bought into it because I watched the tape and I saw it on the tape, and we had this discussion pre-draft. We knew he was this good coming into this year. He just needed a little bit of time because of the injury, which, it's the sport of football. It happens. But man, how he invested big time in the secondary, and it's paying off dividends. I mean, the Eagles are a Saquon drop away from 6-1, and this whole narrative being completely different. Honestly, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think it might not be today. We're a little bit tighter on time with what else we got to get into. But I want to do. It's worth doing an episode on Howie's off season because there was a couple glaring misses. Obviously,
there's one.
Devin White comes to mind.
I don't count that as a miss, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think like the contracts, like I don't think, oh, hey, we signed this guy. I think, hey, the contract is 1 year, 1.5 mil. We miss whatever we miss. Like, it's not really.
Dotson's a bigger miss.
I'm not gonna argue there. Okay.
When you look at the market and you look at what D Hop went for, and you look at what who just got traded yesterday?
There's rumors about him in the locker room, and like I think I have to buy into them now with just how it's a pick swap with the Panthers and Ravens. The Ravens could legitimately win the Super Bowl, and the Panthers could legitimately finish the worst record, and it would be a one pick swap.
It's a 1 round pick swap, right? It's 5 and 6 swap.
Yeah, but the Ravens could win the Super Bowl realistically, and the Panthers could finish with the worst realistic record.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's
so
crazy. So, and so there's a couple things. One, we gave up too much to get Jahan Dotson. In the moment, I kind of get it, and he doesn't cost us much. So I get that a little bit. I think as glaring, if not more so, is a third. Was it a third to get Pickett?
It was a pick swap. We moved back from the third to the fourth.
Yeah, so that for Pickett, don't love that considering Justin Fields got traded for almost about the same capital.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want people barking at Jalen Hurts causing this quarterback controversy like we've lived before, and I feel like people in the Philadelphia, area would kind of start wanting Justin Fields if Jalen Hurts, isn't rock solid, but he's been good this year. So
he's been great the last 3 games, and part of the reason he's been able to be so good is that the deep ball seems to be coming back a little bit. He had a couple of absolute beautiful throws last week, and when you can tell deep ball's working, that's when Jeff Stoutland's creating magic on the O-line. And Hurts had time. He had a clean pocket. He also was missing 2 anchors on the O-line. And shout out to Fred Johnson. Shout out to Tyler Steen for stepping right in, not missing a beat. I don't know how many other teams could lose, their starting left tackle, starting right guard, and not change the game plan, not skip a beat. I read something where Tyler Steen has played 80 snaps this year in relief, has yet to give up a pressure. I mean, that's insanity. Ice cold off the bench. Fred Johnson had one tough day, but he was on an island an awful lot against Hendricks last week, and he did a great job keeping Hurts clean.
Yeah, he did. I'm looking at the PFF grades for the offensive line, and I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape on this one, honestly, because the PFF grades don't kind of line up, which is, I don't know. I'll have to watch the tape because Tyler Steen was great at one of the lowest offensive grades on our team. So,
on our team, I kind of get, but because he's, you're talking about, Pro Bowler Dickerson,
on the offensive line. I know. I gotta go back. I'm gonna go back and watch the tape. NFL Plus is a fantastic thing if you want to get watching film. It's a great resource. The filters are so easy. It's fantastic. They're really growing the game in that aspect. But Fred Johnson, man, he had a great game according to PFF as well. So I don't take those stats as full, but like I like to look at them.
Yeah, I mean,
man, he felt great. So,
dude, I am not the stats guy. That's why this podcast works. Like, there's 2 types of people when they watch sports. There's the analytics guy, and there's like the ball watcher guy, and you have both in this podcast, which is great.
It's all just
if I'm watching my own line, I am judging them by, is my quarterback clean? How much time does he have? Jalen Hurts was clean all day, and he had plenty of time to get the ball down the field. I don't give a shit how it looked, how pretty it was, how technically sound it was. They kept him upright, and they gave him time.
Yeah, I just like to use these as resources. I like to look around, It's just one of those things where sometimes it doesn't line up with the tape, but sometimes it does. And, like I said, I'll have to go back and rewatch, but the offense clicked on all cylinders, so there's nothing you can really complain about. So
Yeah, they ran the ball well.
Yeah, they did a lot of things well, and I mean, it's not like Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson graded out really well, actually. He graded above Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson in offensive grade. So like, he had a good game. It was just Tyler Steen was great at low, which, like I said, I'm gonna have to go watch the snaps, and I'll see for myself. If he was, I mean, with Fred Johnson posting that high of a grade on Trey Hendrickson, which is all likely who he lined up against most of the game, that's amazing. Like,
and they left him alone a lot too. There wasn't a lot of help to that side.
I think Trey Hendrickson has, I wrote about this in an article about the game. I think he is a top 5 season at edge right now. Like, I think he's having he's having one of those years. I don't know. Have you ever seen those charts where it's like closest to the quarterback and it's like the graphs?
No.
So it's like these graphs and like tells you how like average, like they're close to the quarterback. And his is just so much smaller than everyone else's on his line. It's so ridiculous. He's having a great season. It's not talked about because the Bengals are doing really bad.
Yeah, that's a tough situation to be in. Because I can kind of sympathize a little bit. I mean, the Eagles, it would be like if the Eagles are having that kind of a season. You have an expensive quarterback that you just paid. You have loads of talent on offense, and you have a team that's reached the Super Bowl in its current form. So if you're a Bengals fan, you're frustrated. If you're Zach Taylor, you're wondering what way is up.
Oh, I feel so bad for Bengals fans because the one difference between our team and their team is they just struggle to pay guys for some reason. Jamar Chase is looking for that new deal. T. Higgins is on the franchise tag. As soon as Howie could, he said, "Hey, AJ Brown, hey, Devontae Smith, here's stacks of money."
But he also saved himself a fortune because 2 weeks later, Jefferson reset the market in a big way.
Didn't Amon-Ra reset it after that, or did he go? I think he went after.
He got Jefferson wanted and needed to have the biggest contract deal.
Well, it's worth it. Yeah, it's Jefferson in total value. Got to look at average per year. Okay, so it's AJ Brown's third, and then Devontae Smith's all the way down here.
Yeah, he took a hometown discount. Shout out to Devontae Smith.
There's some value down here though, like But anyway, it's one of those things where, man, we have 2 great wide receivers. Obviously, we wanted a third. It didn't work out. Maybe we go to the draft. Maybe we see if Aeneas Smith is anything. I know he played a little bit, but I think
Johnny Wilson's still there. I mean, they keep giving him looks. He's got a huge body.
I know it's tough. I mean, Goddard needs to get healthy. I mean, Calcaterra filled in excellently for him on Sunday. So like, I'm not overly concerned about, Goddard coming back too quick. Like if he needs another week, take it. Like,
we should be able to take care of Jacksonville without him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully. It feels so trappy to me though. It feels like a trap game because Jacksonville just lost. I mean, they might be having Brian Thomas on Sunday. It was really weird how that all happened. They're like, he's out 2 to 4 weeks, and then he somehow went from 2 to 4 weeks to day. I don't know how that happens, but they also lost Christian Kirk for the season. So
I don't think Jacksonville's mentally in the place to play spoiler.
No,
I always worry about when we play the Giants late in the season. I worry about them playing spoiler because of the NFC East hatred. The Jags just seem like broken that way to where it's less, hey, let's trip up the Eagles, and it's more of just kind of woe is me, what's happened to us.
Mm-hmm. I will say, looking in retrospect, the Giants got too much hate for letting go of Saquon Barkley. I think they had to as an organization.
It was the prudent thing to do as an organization. And they just had to do it normally.
And then they swung at running back in the draft and hit an absolute home run with Tyrone Tracy. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's going to look, if you're rebuilding a team, the thing with the Giants is twofold. One, they didn't want to admit that they're already rebuilding again after just thinking they crested and made the NFC, made the playoffs. 2 was the way that they did it. The arrogance to think that, look, it's a smart financial move to let Saquon go. You don't pay a running back in their scenario. You tell them, hey, look, we appreciate everything you've done. We're entering into a retool. It doesn't make sense for us to pay you. Done. See you later. It was this notion that, well, he's not really worth anything on the open market. Like, we'll let him go out, find out he's worthless. He'll come crawling back. Look, he doesn't make sense for you, but Saquon made sense for most of the NFL in this offseason.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Hard Knocks really opened like a lot of eyes to the whole everything. And I know there's someone that deserves a shout out, and it's Joe Schoen's kid. He said his dad asked him, "Son, who should we draft?" Dude looked right at him. Jayden Daniels.
Yeah,
Kid's got a future. Kid's got a future in the scouting department. I'm just saying.
I think Malik Neighbors is still going to be a dog, but to your point,
you got to find that quarterback. It's all about finding.
And they don't currently have it, and that's why you don't. That's why you don't pay a quarterback just because you feel like you have to. I get that so often from Giant fans. And it was the year after the playoffs, and Daniel Jones coming up for a new contract, and they're like, well, what were we supposed to do? Like, you have to sign him at that point. You absolutely do not. You squeaked into the playoffs and got the doors blown off. Take that for what it is. You weren't a real playoff team. You weren't good enough. You don't sign your quarterback to a 4-year, $180 million deal.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes I wish I do need to get back into talking football like full time, like on another podcast. Like, no, I'm not ditching you guys here. Trust me, I love this podcast. But you know what I mean? Like, they should have known to close the doors. Either have a quarterback or you don't. I feel like Daniel Jones overperformed, and it's just set the franchise back a little bit. I mean, good for him for getting his money. I'm all about everybody in the NFL getting their cash. You are too. I know that. But it's one of those things where it's just tough, and it's really gonna set back a organization a couple of years. It's just one of those.
It's an organization that has a lot too. I mean, you look at their defense; they have a good defense. The Giants' defensive line is good on its own. Not good for the Giants, not good for a bad team. Just plain straight up good. They voluntarily gutted their secondary, which used to be good. Just their team management's bizarre. They made some moves to choose not to re-sign guys because they're in a rebuild, whether they want to admit it or not. But then they make other moves that are seemingly win now. So you don't know where you are in the team building process.
It's really tough, and to that point, it's just you need a quarterback. We've seen quarterbacks going to not so great situations at the jump. CJ Stroud looked amazing. Jayden Daniels is absolutely incredible. That Hail Mary, I'm kind of scared to play him later in the season. He's going to provide a lot of challenges for Vic Fangio on this defense. We're going to get to that when we get to those matchups later in the season. But man, a great quarterback can turn a franchise around. And, of course he needs a good head coach, which we've obviously seen now as well, because if you don't have a good head coach, it doesn't go well, at all.
No, I mean, you look at it's situationally, it's huge. The head coach is huge. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. He's got to be the poster child for this. Where the Baker. Jets. Yeah, Baker's another good one. Both of those guys. Although I think Baker had a good coach in Cleveland and he had a good scenario in Cleveland.
Yeah,
ownership. What's up?
I think he got hurt and they rushed him back, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play poorly that last year. He gave him a chance, but ownership had the opportunity to make the splash, put asses in the seats, and go get Deshaun Watson. That worked out beautifully, as you know. But now he's right at home in Tampa. It's perfect for him. Sam Darnold seems to have found a home in Minnesota. We'll see how that goes with J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. But it's both these guys who were kind of tossed aside by football who were just in the wrong scenario. So you hope that's the case in Carolina. I don't think it's the case in Indianapolis. I think Anthony Richardson is showing football who he is. And that's not going to fly. Pat McAfee had a great take about it where, I mean, you have the easiest job on the field physically. So how do you get back in a huddle after taking 2 plays off, go to your offensive lineman at 330 plus pounds on a 10-play drive and go, all right, guys, I need a little bit more out of you after you just took a vacation? That is a really soft look.
Yeah, it's not good, and that's probably the reason why he was benched. I would hope so, but man, I don't. It's one of those things where we're steering off from the Eagles a little bit, but Jalen Hurts was allowed to develop in the situation Philadelphia behind Carson Wentz. He had that time with Shane Steichen, and now look at him. Anthony Richardson only played about like 50 games of football before like this past week. Like he's incredibly raw. You took him at 4, knowing that he was a project, and you only gave him 10 games. Like,
well, I think you were right earlier in that statement. Though I think him getting benched is not that they're giving up on him as a project, is that he's so not ready to put out on the football field right now. It's actually a detriment. I don't think he ever should have been put out there this season. I agree with you.
It's so crazy just to watch. Like, have you watched any Colts like highlights or games? Like, it's so crazy.
He was 2 for 15 last game.
Yeah, and the one completion was like a 70-yard dagger.
Yeah, he's got talent. The arm talent's there. They never should have put him in this year.
Exactly, but looping back around to the Eagles, like I said, Hurts got the time to sit and develop. Like, he got the time to learn from the coaching staff. He didn't get thrown in right away. He got to sit back and learn, and then of course got subbed in for Carson Wentz at the end of that season, and then the rest is history. But that's where I got to give my credit to these coaching staffs. Like, the Eagles are doing more things right than wrong, and I know a lot of people get on here and blast, and we do our fair share as well. But in the grand scheme of like the NFL like realm, they're definitely like top 5, top 7 easily in how things are run inside the organization. Like, of course,
comfortably top 5. I mean,
of course, there's some antics by the head coach, and you just learn to live with it, I guess, at this point. But like everything else, like, the talent development, paying players, not early, but early to, so they have financial security, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, the Eagles treat their players well, and like the Colts, I don't know if you saw that, how the wide receivers found out.
Yeah,
on Twitter.
It's 2 different ways to run a football team. I think the Eagles, I think everybody in the league would pretty squarely agree that they're, top 5. I mean, we don't get a lot of love nationally, especially not like the class department for Philadelphia. But you'd be hard pressed to find like a pundit on ESPN, especially some of the guys who have previously played, who don't say the Eagles are a first class organization. From Lurie to Roseman to the coaching staff. I mean, Nick outwardly, has some moments that are probably a little bit regrettable. In the locker room, all the behind the scenes clips I've seen, all the the mic'd up stuff I've seen. I mean, he's a player's coach. He rides or dies for the guys, which is what they want. So they're in a better scenario here for sure than. And Shane Steichen, I think, is a good coach. I don't think this was his call to start him.
It's that's a whole ramble we go on for hours for, but like
that came from above him.
There were reports that it didn't, which is really crazy.
That's really surprising.
So there's reports countering that it didn't, and it's just a mess. But like at the same time, I want to go back to the Eagles and Sirianni.
Yeah.
That him on the bench there with Saquon, where Saquon's like, or Nick Sirianni's like, I want you to get yours, and Saquon's like, I want the young guys to get in. Then Will Shipley scored, but then he didn't. But it was flagged. He scored, but like, it's just awesome to have that kind of culture around a team. And you brought up the fans as well. There's one thing I want to just throw out there real quick. Could you imagine if what happened to Mookie Betts last night happened in the bank? Can you imagine what people would be saying about that?
We could do an hour episode on the unfair depiction of Philadelphia fans. Like, that's a whole other episode. But yes, you're right. On that note, I'm so surprised at the lack of fallout from that. Like, ESPN did like a hero piece about him, and I'm just so perplexed that like. It's not that he reached his glove over and interfered with the field of play, which is annoying, but an honest mistake. Like, he had Mookie by the arm trying to rip the ball out of his glove. And ESPN went and met him at the bar, and they're like, what a regular guy. Cousin Anthony over here got a little excited. Like, what are we doing?
Knew him?
Yeah, what are the odds?
Fair. I mean, to be fair, in all fairness, I don't know if ESPN would write a hero piece on the guy if they did in Philadelphia, but that guy would go over to Xfinity and not buy a drink for the rest of the night. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but we would handle it locally. Like,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this guy, like, he's an ESPN reporter not condemning grabbing a player in the field of play. It's nuts.
It's kind of strange how that all plays out, but like I said, in
Not to mention the
Philadelphia,
one guy yelling at Freddie Freeman during the stand up to cancer moment, Freeman, you suck. Like, look, Philadelphia is hard. It's tough to play in. We want to make you uncomfortable, but it feels like there's a code. Like, there's clearly established lines to where you can stay within. We don't tend to go outside. When you see places that are throwing trash on the field, we don't do that. Like yelling, telling a player whose mom died of cancer that he sucks, definitely don't do that. We don't grab the players, and yet we get the most shit out of anybody.
no, we get the most. It's really weird because like you're right, we never cross that line. We heckle everybody. We tell them we keep it on the field though. Like we don't really go. We don't veer off into that stuff because that's just low. And if someone
Unless
does
you're
do that at one of
Marcelo
our
Zuna.
games, yeah, yeah. Well, that's I didn't participate in any of that when I was with the Braves game. But I just you heckle them, you boo them more. That's what you do. Because obviously those things aren't right, but you know what I mean. If someone crosses the line and say like Freddie Freeman at Citizens Bank Park, people sitting next to you will start yelling at you. Like,
yeah, you'll get checked for sure.
You will get checked at CBP. Like, you're not.
Yeah,
gonna, They're like, okay, that's a little too far, man. Like, sit down, calm down. Like,
yeah, like we don't, we do tend to keep it on the field. I mean, one of the best ones I can remember it's 70-30 on the field, off the field, was somebody would always yell during the quiet patches when Strider was pitching. Are those your sister's pants? That's pretty awesome because he wears tight pants.
See, that's okay though. Like, we don't like. I just keep going back to the Freddie Freeman example because it's the thing that happened most recently. Like, if he were to take his first AB back in Citizens Bank Park, I guarantee you he would have got a standing O. Like, I guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So anyway, it's unfair, but it's whatever. With the last couple minutes, because I know we're already over our time, but we do need to at least address what's going on in the Wells Fargo,
man, and now we're not.
The Sixers are down, so that is what it is. Joel's not playing, PG's not playing. I'm not going to talk about that because I too, like Nick Nurse, am beyond frustrated with that. But Tobias Harris is home. They caught up with him before the game, and I thought he gave a politically correct answer as to what it means to be back in Philadelphia. I was always a little bit delusional in the fact that I thought he liked it here a lot and we didn't like him. After hearing that interview, he was very acutely aware of the fact that we couldn't wait for him to leave, which makes me feel a little bit bad. Like, look, did he underperform in a Sixers jersey? Absolutely. Did we write him that check? Absolutely. I thought he was always a good teammate. He was always a pro. He did what we asked. We asked him to be a player he objectively is not. He was a ball-dominant post player who was allowed to, kind of create for himself. We said, hey, we need you to stand in the corner and hit threes. He never said he could do that.
No.
So I don't put it all on him. Now, he did disappear in the playoffs, which is reason for criticism. But I did feel kind of bad that he felt unwelcome here at that point because I don't think he did anything to deserve that.
No, it's one of those things where the GM overpaid you and the fans don't like you for it. Don't like you for the GM's decision.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Not to mention it was him or Jimmy, which doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help his cause.
Which still isn't his fault.
No, it's not. He got paid his bucks. Good for him. He came out to a crowd every night that didn't really like him, which, I got to give him even more credit for.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough, man, to play in the city when you're in a slump, man. I'll tell you that. I mean,
yeah, you got to be mentally tough to play here when you're slumping.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, man, I wish it would have played out differently. I wish he would have been able to do what he was kind of good at. Of course, we didn't have a coach that put him in the best spots most of the time. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it didn't kind of work out. And like, I root for the guy when they leave. Like, I root for Markelle Fultz, Knightley. Like, I just want to see these guys do good. I want to see them get paid. Like,
yeah, it was. Yeah, I think he could have undone all 5 years in the Knicks series because there were moments on the floor where Joel was on the minute restriction, he couldn't go. Tyrese was getting double, triple teamed, and you were just looking for somebody, and it was like, you know what, Toby, we'll forgive it all. If in this moment right here you turn into Tobias Harris from like 2018, I'll forget about the last 4 years. And it just felt like every time we gave him one of those moments where it's like, all right, this is it right here. Like, we need you. He just let you down so often, which, again, we put those expectations on him, not the other way around.
Exactly.
But he just had a knack for letting you down.
Yeah, it's tough when it ends like that, but, what are you going to do? Like, it happens every franchise. If you go look down the list of bad decisions, they all have them. I mean, obviously the varying degrees, the Chiefs don't really have them. I know I'm going to the NFL here because that's just the easiest example to point out where they don't make many personnel mistakes at all. I mean, the Celtics, stuff like that. I mean, even the Heat, you can until a couple of years ago, you even group the Bucks in there, but now the Bucks look like they're struggling. But
they made a massive head coaching miscalculation.
Yeah, that'll do it. See, and one mistake could change the course of the whole franchise. And like, obviously, the Tobias thing did that for us.
It really did.
Get Jimmy and the whole Brett Brown thing, and it's just like.
Not to mention, he took a max spot for 5 years.
Yeah, but like, if I were him, I would have also taken that max spot. And sometimes you got to step back and think. Yeah, exactly. You got the fans. You got to step back and be like, okay, if I was in his scenario, would I sign a contract for $200+ million? Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, the anger is not that he did anything wrong. It's the frustration that we're stuck with him, and it's not going to get. We were stuck with him, and it wasn't going to get any better because of the way the NBA operates. Is you only have typically 2, max 3 max player spots. And for as long as we had Tobias Harris, we always knew that our big 3, quote unquote, was going to be Joel, Tyrese, and Toby. And that ceiling was never going to move. I mean, you could get all the complementary pieces you want. Our ceiling stayed the same. And as Joel got better and Tyrese got better and Toby regressed, it just made that 3rd max spot look more frustrating that we couldn't fill it.
Oh yeah, it's tough, man. Like, what are you gonna do?
Send him to Detroit.
I mean, good for him, man. I mean, he's gonna get a lot of minutes, and
he got $26 million a year after watching what he just did.
Well, there's this thing called the cap floor that teams have to hit, and Detroit was, I think, very under that.
Yeah,
they might have been close because Cade just signed his max extension, but I don't think they have anyone really else heavy on the books. So, like,
yeah, this extension I don't think hit this year.
It might have, but it still wouldn't have been close because they have no one else on the roster. Like,
yeah,
it's one of those things where you with the max cap space thing, you gotta calculate properly, which Daryl Morey did. I'm thankful for that. I bring up that because I want to talk about Houston a little bit, because if we were to operate like them, of course they paid their young players, but now they don't have that max cap space in the offseason to go get somebody. So, like, Daryl Morey operated it right. It's just that Paul George and Joel Embiid are not in the court right now, and the Sixers are getting fined for it. So
they should, honestly. I mean, I'm not of the opinion that I'm not coming down on Joel Embiid for this, because truthfully and honestly, I do not give a shit. I watch all the games. I do not care about this team until April. Like I said, and when I say I don't care, it means I'm going to watch because I love basketball. I love the Sixers, and I grew up watching them. And like, I won't miss a game. But everything this year has to be done through the scope of April. So if Joel Embiid needs to sit out for the first 10 games to get his knee right, do it. If he needs to miss a matchup with Jokic in January, go for it. I don't care. He's done all that. He's beat Jokic. He's got the MVP. That's done. So everybody who's angry at Joe for not playing or whatever, what would you rather him do? Would you rather him play 82 and be hurt in April and do that again? No.
Of course, I agree with you. It just feels a whole lot Christian McCaffrey-esque, where they're like, "Hey, he might play week 1." Dude, we're in week 9 now. We haven't seen him on the field. Like, I just don't want that to happen to Embiid.
That's where we agree for sure. My anger is with the organization, not with Joel, not with Paul. Tell us what's going on. Since we've gotten Embiid, and Markelle Fultz is the same way. It's these cryptic messages of, well, he's progressing nicely. There's been no setback, but he's not ready. Which the fuck one is it? Because he just played in the Olympics. If there was not a setback, his ass would be on the court. So it's fine. Tell us. He has knee pain. That he had something shaved off his meniscus, taking longer to heal. Done. We're good. We're chilling. Just tell me.
It's really that easy, but at the same time, it's not that easy. I don't know. It's just this thing with organizations and like, dude, I bring up the 49ers because they feel like king of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the closest comparable. Like, they made Debo run routes with ammonia. Like, they had Jordan Mason say he's all right, and he didn't play another snap. Lost me my fantasy week, by the way. Not hurt about it at all. Of course, I'm terribly hurt. But anyway, it's like one of those things where I just hope the team tells us in stone, hey, Joel Embiid will be back on X date. Paul George will be back on this date, and we'll be ready to roll. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't want this mystery that the San Francisco 49ers have going on with their running backs and, this guy and that guy playing 2 snaps a game. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't want that for the Sixers. I know it's 2 totally different sports, but like I said, it's the closest comparable that I could find with like the teams being cryptic with what they're doing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here for a second. Because I have a theory as to why the NBA launched this investigation. As gambling and sports grow closer and closer, woven together with FanDuel and DraftKings seemingly sponsoring half of sport. Not to mention ESPN having their own app, ESPN Bet.
That's crazy.
I think that because you have those season bets. Sixers win. Over unders, whatever. I think the sports books were taking a bath on the Sixers. And there was some kind of pushback to the league of like, hey, look, we've been pretty good to you guys. You got to clean this up. Now, I'm not saying just Joel Embiid alone caused this effect, but I think they saw the potential for, well, we're doing it. The Clippers are doing it. Like, it started to snowball a little bit, and we got made an example of.
It definitely did start to snowball a little bit. And, of course, you're right. Those 2 things are closer than ever. And then you have someone like Jontay Porter. I'll never forget that. When watching the video the night after that, like right when the thing was announced, you watch the video of him hitting a bucket and him looking like the most depressed person like ever, like the saddest person ever. Like, like, come on, man. Like, so now we can't gamble on 10-day players. I hope that's a rule specifically made by Jontay Porter. But like, man, oh man, like you can't have people doing this. Like, there is so much money. Like, who gives a crap about my $10 parlay that I'm going to place tonight that's never going to hit? Like, there are people putting thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this. And like, of course, if something bad happens, you're going to get called out. I mean, when Jordan Mason, I keep going back to the 49ers, but when Jordan Mason went out on Sunday night, because, it's a big primetime game, everyone has this over, you know what I mean? Cowboys can't guard the run for anything. Everyone put their tinfoil hat straight on, and they're like, I just kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, how many people actually like believe this? Like, it's kind of crazy to like think about, like,
Yeah. And then there's, you're talking about the big dollar guys. I get where you're coming from, but I mean, there's 10 million Ryans out there that put a $10 parlay on that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a big thing. It's huge money, and they wanted it, and I think to a degree it's not horrible, but when we're starting to see now the consequences of it with that Jordan Mason situation, with the Joel Embiid ambiguity with Paul George, like you're starting to see these betting apps have an actual effect on sport, which I think is where we're walking a pretty gray line here.
It is a fine line. I'm glad we took that. Were you in my class in college? Were you in that class with oh my gosh?
Oh yeah. With
Just Stark.
it was
Stark.
it was Stark. It was sports media and something. I forget what the hell it was called.
We got into a lot of controversial topics over there, so it was really enlightening.
Yeah,
I wish that information, like, you could take like an online class about that or something, or like go to like community college for like a couple bucks and be like, hey, I want to learn more about this, or like a seminar or something.
We'll have to get Stark on the pod and have him remind us.
I mean, I have his Twitter. I think we could easily get him on here.
I think I might too, actually.
We'll have to think about that one, but
that'd be a lot of fun.
This is just, we're wrapping up. I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Just a straight up sports question. Are the Yankees coming back?
No.
Are they going to do it? The bats look hot, man. I don't know.
I think they were never going to get swept. It was always going to be a gentleman's sweep, but I think the Dodgers are inevitable.
You think they're going to
also, like, New York is this great mecca of entertainment, artistry, music, all these great, great things. And they saw that LA pulled a pretty big card and had, Cube open up their game. And for whatever the reason, New York went, yes, we need to answer this. Get me the best guy you got. And they landed on Fat Joe, who sounded like shit.
Look, I love Fat Joe, man, but you had the golden opportunity to bring Jay-Z back and perform Empire State of Mind walking down center field, just like Ice Cube did. Like, you had the answer was right there. You had the answer in your fingertips, and you didn't make the call.
Well, and even if, look, there's a huge gap, I even think, between, like, Jay-Z is, you're right, that is the biggest name for, like, New York, New York rapper you can get.
He didn't know Empire State of Mind when they played the Phillies. He did it. Like, it's happened.
Yeah, but there's a gap between, Fat Joe is, a big-time New York, artist, figure, all those things. Having him go immediately after Ice Cube was unfair. I mean, it was like the Cube thing in LA was like kind of new, but you could see, like, dude, Yankees players were bobbing their heads. The stadium was going nuts. When he did Good Day, I was like, all right, well, I can turn this game off because the Dodgers won. And then I was so excited to see who the Yankees were going to counter with. And then it was Fat Joe. And I don't know what the issue was with the audio, but he sounded horrible.
It might not have been him. It might have been something. There's a lot of you and me both know there's a lot of components to making something like that go. It's not just hey, here's a microphone, go out there, have some fun.
Somebody would have let him down.
You never know. But if Philly ever does that, man, if we ever do that and get Lil Dicky and he does save that money, I will go absolutely crazy. Just saying.
See, I would like it to. I'm with you. I would like it to be Lil Dicky. I think, obviously, like, most likely, people would be clamoring to have me come out and do it. I think, given the recent events that have come to light, I might take a pass on that.
Lil Dicky is a very safe choice.
He's also a diehard Sixers fan, which would be kind of dope if the Sixers made it that far. I also wouldn't turn my nose up at Will Smith either.
No. Dude, can you imagine the Fresh Prince theme?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he did
Fresh crazy
kind of live, like that'd be pretty dope.
I'd be the whole stadium, no matter which one it would be absolutely crazy.
Philly's got some bands that could do it. The Roots would be another good one. Have them go live. We got Mountain Joys out of Philly. Like, you got media wise, we could have. I think if we had to put together a pre-game lineup for shows.
It'd be nice. Like I said, Lil Dicky's the first choice. Save that money. The whole crowd would be going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, he'd be going nuts. But all right, we've almost doubled our typical episode time.
We've had fun though. That's all that matters, right?
Yes.
We've had fun. Hopefully the listeners have had fun as well.
Yeah, shout out to the 25 of you who have steadfastly hung with us for 49 minutes.
They like that Lil Dicky talk. That's, they like that rap talk.
Yeah, honestly, dude. I mean, we've wandered off track and y'all hung around, so I appreciate that. We'll be back again next week. Most likely back on Thursdays, but Ryan and I'll figure out a production schedule later. But till that time, I'm Brandon. He's Ryan. Just to pass the report. We'll see you later.